It not only sounds good, it feels good too. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. I am so glad to be with you this morning. My name is Tony Fisher. This is my first service as your minister here in the pulpit. And I'm excited. Yeah, save your applause for the end, maybe, I guess you should say. Wait and see. We are UUs, after all. Welcome this morning. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples is a welcoming congregation. We are happy to see you this morning. After the service, there will be refreshments and goodies that I hope somebody's saving some for me. There's actually a cake over there, and I hope you'll take a look at that before it's devoured right away. We hope that you will enjoy the service this morning and the music. This is a sacred time that we share together. We have some joys and some sorrows to share later. Joys and sorrows are always woven fine. So we hope that you'll keep with us in the spirit of worship and the spirit of sharing. We will begin our service this morning with a prelude. Come into this place. There are healing waters here and hands with soothing balm to ease your troubled days, to bring your wounds and aching hearts to peace. Your scars too numb to feel, your questions and complaints, they are all welcome here. Rest a while. Let the warmth of this community surround you, heal you, and when you feel stronger, just a bit, notice those who need you too. They are here. They are everywhere. Weep with them, smile with them, work with them, laugh along the way, pass the cup, drink the holy fire, and then, when we are done, take it with you into the world. Let's join our voices together this morning in our first hymn, number 347 in the gray hymnal, Gather the Spirit. Rise as you are willing or able. If there are those who would like to stand in the aisles and lend their strong voices to help the congregation through the hymn, I urge you to come forward. Gather the Spirit, harp, heart, and mind. Seeds for the sowing are laid in store. Nurtured in love and conscience refined, a body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit, growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. And please remain standing for the lighting of the chalice. As we light the chalice this morning, let us remember that in congregations from Key West to Pensacola, from Eastport, Maine to Olympic, Washington, and all around the world, Unitarian Universalists are gathering, bringing their separate fires to kindle one flame. As we share the words printed in the order of service, may we rejoice in knowing we are not alone. We light this chalice flame. You may be seated. And if the children would like to come forward, I do have a story this morning. I didn't know you all were going to be here today, and I was going to do a story for these folks anyway. But I'm grateful that you're here. Very grateful. Welcome. Thanks for being here. So this morning is a teaching story, and it's a story that takes place a long time ago. There was once, outside the gates of an ancient city, an old wise woman, a teacher, who would sit there every day under the shade of a tree and tell stories to the youth who gathered around and to anyone who passed by. She would tell all sorts of stories, and people would come and listen and pass on. One day, a traveler came by. You all set? Okay. One day, a traveler came by and listened for a while, and then came forward and asked the question, "I would like to move to this city. Can you tell me what sort of people live here?" And the wise woman's eyes crinkled with a smile and with curiosity. And she answered the question with a question. And she said, "Well, what sort of people live in the town where you come from?" And the traveler said, "Oh, they're a bunch of cheats and liars. They would no sooner see you turn your back than take your most precious possessions. I'm glad to be rid of them. They're all evil." And the wise woman's eyes changed from curiosity and a smile to that of sadness. And she said, "Oh, sir, good sir, I'm sorry. You would find the same kind of people here in this city." And without a word, the man turned and walked past the gate and down the road, seeking somewhere else. As it happened, just a day later, another traveler came by and sat and listened with the children and smiled, and he too asked the same question. "Oh, wise woman, I would like to move to your city. Can you tell me what kind of people live here?" And she asked this traveler the same question. And he said, "Oh, the people in my town are wonderful. They would easily give you the shirts off your back if you needed it. They would take care of you in your worst of times. They were so good, I hated to leave them, but my work required that I move to another city." And so the wise woman's eyes stayed crinkled, and she clasped her hands together in delight, and she said, "Oh, good sir, come through this gate. Here you will find the same sort of people that you left in your own town." And so the man turned, gave her a bow, and walked through the gates of the city, excited about what he might find there. The children that were gathered around the wise woman, they went up to her and they said, Why did you tell a lie to those men yesterday and today?" And she said, "Oh, it was not a lie. You bring with you to wherever you go the seeds of the life you will live and the joy of the people that you will encounter." That's the story today. Are you guys going to sit? You can sit here for a while, or you can head back. We're going to head to the back. Okay. I don't know how I'd feel with the... Thank you for coming. As the children leave this beautiful sanctuary, this is a time during our service that we have an opportunity to speak with an open heart to each other, to share personal joys and sorrows that we bring into this room. I have a few to start, and then Roger Brown has a microphone, and I have a microphone, and we'll bring those mics to you if you have something to share. I first want to share an incredible joy that before the service this morning in the closed office down the hall, the search committee, your search committee, knocked on my door as I was preparing and came in and presented me with this stole. An incredible stole, and it's two-sided, as you will see. I think I have actually the plainer side out, but down below you'll see there are turtles and all sorts of fish and things, and there's of course the symbol of our faith, chalice. And let me take this off. As you'll see on the back there's a palm tree on the back. It's just lovely. And so I think you like this side better. We do have a few sorrows to share this week. As many of you know through the announcement, a longtime member, Fran Lohr, passed away. On Thursday this past week, there was a gathering at Bentley Village, and people shared their memories of Fran. This coming Saturday, again, you'll know that we'll have a memorial service for Betty Shepard, another longtime member who passed. Ruth Lawson, I'm sorry. My apologies. Who passed away, and so we'll be celebrating her life on Saturday at 2 o'clock. We have with us this morning the Leota family. Mary Leota passed into the mysteries of life this past Monday, and the family is here with us this morning. We will celebrate her life on Thursday morning at 11 o'clock here in the sanctuary. The Leotas were members of the church in Germantown, Pennsylvania, and have been part of this community in Naples for 7 years, though not particularly members of this church. The whole family is here this morning, and we're grateful for your presence. Thank you. Also, Lee Shine lost his mother this past week. Betty, Betsy, and Miranda and Lee are up in Chicago celebrating Lee's mother's life, so we keep them in our hearts and minds this morning. If you have a joy or a sorrow that you would like to share, please raise your hand. We'll come to you with the mics, state your name, and share with us what's on your mind this morning.
The Caring Committee has a sympathy card for Fran Lohr's daughter to be signed in the auditorium outside the church. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Janet Hoffman, and I'm asking for those that can to please send their love, positive thoughts, whatever you can, to my father. He's been hospitalized and will get out today, but he has heart failure and lung problems, and his future is probably limited.
Good morning. My name is Sheila Jacobs. I'm from Attleboro, Massachusetts, and I'm just very happy to be here. It's a joy to be at home in a UU congregation. And at home, we are welcoming our new minister, Gretchen Weiss. So it's kind of bittersweet, but I'm really pleased to be here. Welcome.
Thank you.
A couple of weeks ago, I had the fun of another colonoscopy, and the doctor said my colon cancer is gone.
Hi, my name is Ellen. I'm struggling today to explain to my son, who's 5, about the violence in Ferguson, about Mike Brown, about why we have to go to another vigil tonight, he asks me, didn't we fix that when we went to the Trayvon Martin vigil? And I'm struggling to explain the situation to him, and just so humbled by the idea that I have such amazing privilege to be able to wait and explain this to him when I'm ready, instead of him living that the life of the friends of color that we have. Thanks.
Okay. I've just completed my third move in 4 years. Moving is hell, I'm sure you're aware of that. What I did discover through this process, this round, was that being a member of this congregation means having a family. At every step of our move, there were friends helping, right until just the other day when Mike Kirko came and hung a tapestry in the wall. And before that, there was Kati who put up all the paintings. And then there was moving day and unpacking day, and I was just surrounded with the love of my UU family. So it's more than a congregation. Thank you.
I'm Jean Procopo. I'm excited to announce that I am a great-grandmother. My granddaughter had a son, Jack, this past week.
Wonderful.
I want to share a great joy. I got a call from my daughter yesterday in California, and she has landed the job of her dreams that she's been pursuing for the last 2.5 years. And this career is with the state of California, and it's going to be great for her retirement, future, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm so glad to share that joy.
Hi there, I'm Nate Fisher. I'm Tony's son. This is my first time being at one of your services, and I'm humbled by the welcome that I've received. I just wanted to say that over the past, I'm not sure, I think 7 years, I've gotten to watch my father go from the career he had to the one that he dreamt of. And now he's here giving his first sermon in his first church. And I haven't had a lot of time as a young person to be proud of people, but I'm more proud of him than I've ever been of anybody else.
Hi, I just want to say how pleased I am to see Philip Myers here today. Really good to see you, Philip.
We hold all these joys, all these sorrows in our hearts, and those that have been left unspoken that each of us has as we enter this sanctuary every single Sunday. We hold those in our hearts too. Blessings on this congregation. Blessings on each and every one of you. Amen. Please join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. We live in a fragile world. The difference between have and have not, between security and vulnerability, between complacence and wondering where it all went wrong, is oh so slight. We live in a fragile world where tumult and uncertainty are written not only in the faces of those we see, on our television screens, but in those we know sitting close to us in these pews. We live in a fragile world where we are all broken to one degree or another, where we all experience loss, where we all know regret, where we all feel pain. Spirit of life and love, nurture our spirits so that we can create a place where others too can be healed and strengthened. Fill us with the compassion, the strength, the courage to overcome our own fears, move beyond our disagreements, and reach out our hands and our hearts to others. Spirit of love, stay with us now and always as we strive toward the goal of beloved community here in this fragile world. you'd grab your hymnals and open to responsive reading number 666. Despair is my private pain, born from what I have failed to say, failed to do, failed to overcome. I turn to you to renew my life. I turn to the world, the streets of the city, the worn tapestries of brokerage firms. Rage and pain in the faces that turn from me, afraid of their own inner worlds. From within this world, my despair is transformed to hope. And now we get to rise and blend our voices again in hymn number 323, Break Not the Circle. And again, if anybody would like to come forward and help with the singing, that would be great. Rise as you're willing and able. Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not the circle, make it wider still, till it includes, embraces all the living. Come wonder at this love that comes to life, where words of freedom are with humor spoken, and people keep no score of wrong and guilt, but will that human bonds remain unbroken. Join then the movement of the love that frees, till people of whatever race or nation will truly be themselves, stand on their feet, see eye to eye with laughter and elation. Be seated. The reading this morning is from Rita Nakashima Brock and Rebecca Ann Parker from their book, Saving Paradise. Universalism tells us we can come to know the world as paradise when our hearts and souls are reborn through the arduous and tender task of living rightly with one another and the earth. Generosity, nonviolence, and care for one another are the pathways into transformed awareness. Knowing that paradise is here and now is a gift that comes to those who practice the ethics of paradise. This way of living is not utopian. It does not spring simply from the imagination of a better world, but from a profound embrace of this world. It does not begin with knowledge or hope. It begins with love. Paradise is human life restored to its divinely infused dignity and capacity. And it is a place of struggle with evil and injustice, requiring the development of wisdom, love, nonviolence, and responsible uses of power. Power can be experienced as spiritual illumination of the heart, mind, and senses, felt in moments of religious ecstasy, and it can be known in ordinary life lived with reverence and responsibility. Paradise is not a place free from suffering or conflict, but it is a place in which spirit is present and love possible. One of the reasons that I found this church compelling, just one of the many reasons I found this church compelling, was the wonderful work that your stewardship drive did last year, moving the congregation from a regular canvas drive to one of stewardship, of generosity. And the way the congregation responded was something that I'm sure appealed to anyone who looked at this congregation as a possible place to settle. Right now, we ask you again to reach down deep into your pockets for our morning's offering. We may give each year or month or quarterly to the pledge drive, but what we do each Sunday is a gift, continuing to represent the way that we think about this church in our lives and this church in the world. Your generous contribution will be greatly appreciated. The morning's offering will now be received. Tina Cherry and her husband Joseph worked hard to protect their 3 children from the violence they knew existed in their neighborhood, as it does all over this country. They drove their kids everywhere they could. They insisted on tight curfews when their oldest, Louis, was out with friends. And they created a strong and supportive home atmosphere for the family. But in the middle of a winter afternoon, 5 days before Christmas in 1993, as 15-year-old Louis was headed out to a Christmas party organized by Teens Against Gang Violence, a group he had recently joined, he was caught in the crossfire of a gang fight and was killed, an innocent victim of just the kind of violence he was beginning to work against. Tina Cherry thought she was doing everything humanly possible to create a safe home and teach her children good values. She reacted to her son's death the same way that you or I would, with terrible grief and deep anger. It is a scenario that plays out in one form or another across this nation has done for far too long. From Boston to Los Angeles to Sanford, Florida to Ferguson, Missouri, and everywhere in between, violence touches so many lives. This week we also lost a blazing star to suicide, a desperate act brought on by a long and continuing battle with depression and anxiety and the recent prognosis of Parkinson's disease. Robin Williams' family and friends mourn. The world mourns the loss of such a creative and beautiful force. But despite his visibility and his willingness to talk openly about his difficulties, this too is a scenario that plays out in all corners of our society, both public and private, every single day. As one of our own church members who has suffered such a loss wrote this week, each family's journey is different, but the underlying heartache is similar. There is relief shrouded in guilt and sadness. The ambivalence comes with thanks that our loved one is free from the demons and despair that haunted them, coupled with the infinite emptiness and pain left behind. I call this the empty heart compartment, she writes. It is an irreparably broken part of the heart. Some days it feels like a crater. It's not as blistered as it once was, but today it is rubbed raw by the news of yet another family starting this journey, surviving suicide and searching for their new normal. But what is normal in this complex world, and how do we make sense of it all? Like Tina Cherry, most of us work to carve out a safe haven, an oasis, some small protection from the hard world in which we live. But as we all discover eventually, it's impossible to hold ourselves separate, to keep the world at bay, no matter how hard we try. This morning's reading by Rita Nakashima Brock and Rebecca Ann Parker is taken from their book, Saving Paradise: How Christianity Traded Love of This World for Crucifixion and Empire. In the book, they shared the startling discovery that instead of being focused on the image of the crucifixion, early Christian churches were literally built on the vision of paradise. In describing one 5th century church, they write, as soon as congregants entered the church, they stood in a 3-tiered sacred cosmos. The starry night sky or multi-hued clouds represented the first tier, the heavens where the celestial beings hovered. From this mysterious realm, the right hand of God emerged to bless the world. The second tier was an intermediary space over which the living Christ presided. The departed saints stood with him in the meadows of paradise and visited to bless the living. The third tier was the floor of the church, where worshipers stood in God's garden on earth. Parker and Brock tell us that this three-tiered universe, this paradise, had both a here and a not here quality. That Christians were taught that paradise had always been here on earth. And while sin had once closed its portals, Jesus had reopened them to the living. Christians were taught that what they could taste and see and feel in the traces of ordinary life, those joys, and that time they spent together in worship, was those traces of paradise. It's what keeps us going, these traces of paradise. Even when our hearts are broken again and again, we look outside these windows and marvel at the beauty. We look into each other's eyes and find connection. Traces of paradise. These are the seeds of a new order, and our work here together is to nourish those seeds so that they blossom into giving, life-giving action. There's a story that I use as inspiration when I feel a disconnect with the world. It's a simple story about love, but it's also a teaching story about the world. It's a story shared by a doctor and writer, Richard Seltzer, in his book, Mortal Lessons, Notes on the Art of Surgery. I stand by the bed where the young woman lies, her face post-operative, her mouth twisted in palsy, clownish. A tiny twig of facial nerve, the one to the muscles of her mouth, has been severed. She will be thus from now on. During surgery, I had followed with religious fervor the curve of her flesh. I promise you that. Nevertheless, to remove the tumor in her cheek, I had to cut the little nerve. Her husband is in the room. He stands on the opposite side of the bed, and together they seem to dwell in the evening lamplight, isolated from me, private. Who are they, I ask myself, he and this wry mouth I have made, who gaze at each other so generously, greedily? The young woman speaks. Will my mouth always be like this? Yes, I say. It will, because the nerve is cut. She nods and is silent. But the young man smiles. I like it, he says. It's kind of cute. And all at once, I know who he is. I understand, and I lower my gaze. One is not bold in an encounter with a God. Unmindful, he bends to kiss her crooked mouth, and I'm so close I can see how he twists his own lips to accommodate hers, to show that their kiss still works. I hold my breath and let the wonder in. In making a subtle shift, the young man in this story seeks paradise here and now by meeting his new reality in love. And we too, here in this congregation, can seek paradise as we work side by side with one another. The Tuesday crew that labors to maintain our buildings and our beautiful gardens and finds joy in their work together. The religious education team that thrills at the success of their growing program. The Social Justice Committee that senses a momentum shift as their own passion in the struggle rubs off on others. The music and worship folks who balance excitement and anxiety as they wonder what it's going to be like to work with this new minister. The board and the program council, the brave souls who are taking on the stewardship campaign, the angels who will step forward to lighten the auction load. All of us who do the work of this congregation can seek paradise in our interactions. Yes, as we work and grow together, we have to be ready to see each other in every light. Things will go wrong, mistakes will be made. I guarantee you the minister will make some mistakes. People will show their not so perfect sides. And in the moment that they do, how will we meet them? Will we create a separation, or will we shift subtly in love to meet their imperfection? Tina Cherry found a way to make a shift, or rather her world was shifted for her. She writes, "It took my son dying on the streets of Boston for me to wake up, for me to look at the potential that I had deep inside of me. Because I was blinded, I judged, I lived a comfortable life. But Tina began to understand that change had to start within, and that once it had taken hold, there was only one way to go. She took the deep love she had for her son and recognized the love that he was beginning to express in word and deed for this world. And she decided she needed to shift and meet her own new reality in love. She decided to forge a path of healing and reconciliation through the creation of a peace institute in her son's name. She worked collaboratively to create innovative programs which teach and apply the 7 core principles of peace: love, unity, faith, hope, courage, justice, and forgiveness, anchoring everything the Institute does in restorative justice theory. And though she admits to her own difficulty with forgiveness, she has even reached out to the gangs involved in her son's death. When asked, having woken up yourself, how do you wake others up? How do you spread this consciousness, this awareness? And Tina replies, you live it. You live it. You accept people wherever they are without judgment. Since Lewis was killed, our message has been peace. It doesn't matter who is in front of us. Our vision is clear. Our philosophy is we will work with you wherever you are on the journey. As our reading this morning said, we can come to know the world as paradise when our hearts and souls are reborn through the arduous and tender task of living rightly with one another and the earth. The early Universalists believed that all souls would find a place in heaven. But our hope is not for some lofty and separate place, nor do we wish for some new order created out of the chaos of an earth destroyed by our own penchants for violence or misuse of this Mother Earth. And neither can we simply afford to hitch our star to an idealized vision of the future. Our real hope is that paradise will arise from this present world, from within each of us. There is no one else. Paradise springs from the love that exists in each and every heart beating in this room this morning. From the connections we make, the collective hope that we share, the communal narrative that we weave as a community of faith, day by day by day. And as full participants in a wider world that needs us desperately. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. Our closing hymn is number 207, Earth Was Given as a Garden. Rise as you are willing as able, and let's hear those voices.
Earth was given as a garden, cradle for humanity, tree of life and tree of knowledge, place for our discovery. Here was home for all your creatures, born of land and sky and sea, all created in your image, all to live in harmony. Show to us again the garden where all life flows fresh and free. Gently guide your sons and daughters into full maturity. Teach us how to trust each other, how to use for good our power, how to touch the earth with reverence, then once more we'll eat and flower. Bless the earth and all your children, one creation make us whole, interwoven, all connected, planet-wide and inmost soul. Holy Mother, life bestowing, bid our waste and warfare cease. Fill us all with grace o'erflowing. Teach us how to live in peace.
All that we have ever loved and all that we have ever been stands with us on the brink of all that we desire to create. A deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a greater generosity of spirit, a deeper joy in this life we share. Please be seated for the postlude. Anna and I have come here to find paradise with you. Let us work hard to find it with each other. Go in peace. Go in love. Amen.